Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Saturday night live, no life beekeeper chat. That is West Coast friendly for those people that are out on the West Coast. We start a little bit later, so everybody can get involved. And already got the man, the myth, the legend, Sawmill Charlie, ladies and gentlemen. Sawmill Charlie. How's it going?
The legend, huh?
The myth and the legend. I've got my got some boxes in today.
That looks nice. I like that.
Got my laser machine going on the ends, so at least one end will have my name on it. Got one already kind of sort of sealed with a spray. This is a spray urethane on this one, but so you can kind of see it does darken it up a little bit, right? Maybe. Can you see urethane?
Okay, yeah, it does.
No urethane. It's a little bit different. So I'm on the third one. It take a while on my machine to laser, so got it going though.
Hey, Sharon.
So I started. I went and picked up the boxes this morning. I got 40 boxes.
And they were, some guy was delivering them to you.
No, I went and picked them up.
Yeah, but
Amir, that's in the chat a lot. He goes down to Tampa because that's where his boat is, his sailboat. And he picked up some, and he bought 40 extra. He was going to sell them on Facebook.
Hey,
and so I bought them from him, right? I just said, hey, I'll take them all. Let me have them. Which depleted my jar. That's mostly ones right there for change, and then $30 from today. So it's about $100 in there now after buying those. So I went out and tried to sell a little bit of honey on the tailgate, and one guy bought some, and then all of a sudden it started to rain and get kind of miserable. So I just moved inside. I didn't do that long.
Yeah, it was hot and sunny here today, and then I guess it was like 3 o'clock. No, I guess it was later than that, maybe 4-ish. Anyway, we had a pretty good rainstorm and, a little bit of lightning, not much. I mean, it wasn't really a real boomer of a storm, and it knocked the electricity out here for a couple hours. So once it got, the electric was out, but it was still daylight, and I guess it was like 5 o'clock, 5:30. And
so you got to feel Amish for a couple of hours.
Yeah, I just went out to the bee yard and started working on the bees that I started with. We had finished up. Friday night I couldn't get on because of the storm.
Right.
Well, it knocked out the power over at the county fair, and so they canceled the last day of the fair, which was today. So our club had, there you go.
It's working away in the background over there.
Our club had a booth over there, so they packed it up, and we had an observation hive. And so I went down the road here this afternoon and got that, and it was one frame in there. It didn't have a queen in it, and put it in a hive out here. And then we had a mite treatment buy program, so I got rid of 3 more. People did not come when they were supposed to come, so I got rid of 3 more customers today.
You got rid of them? You're done with
well, I had to bring their product home to my house, and then they live closer to me than where the other place was. A lot of them were on vacation and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So collected the money, and out the door they went, and that's when I went to the bee yard. And of course the storm was coming. I said, well, I'll go out there anyway. I want to get this observation hive. The bees were buzzing and hot, and I stuck them in a hive out there, and then it started raining.
Right.
And then I went back out there, and I got about 2 or 3 hives out there that are queenless, and so I did some rearranging, basically.
I cracked a couple open, and they were not really aggressive when I went out there.
No.
But it's day 2 of the open air colony. They're still out there. But it hadn't been that nice. We can just get out and fly day. So I'm hoping that when the sun pops out tomorrow, that they'll start looking some. They may have just said this is our tree and this is where we're going to be. I don't know, but I mean, they're about beach ball size. I wouldn't even say they're basketball size. They're bigger than that. Now, my pole, I might be able to get up there to them, but to get them back down might be a problem because they're up so high. If I get a ladder and get my long pole all the way extended out, I can probably get to the bottom of them. But getting them out of that tree is gonna.
It ain't worth the hassle. You'll break a leg or whatever.
I'd probably be better off, and it would be a viral video if I climbed up the ladder and took my, that little 4-inch chainsaw, Chinese chainsaw, because up near where they're at, it does fork off a little bit where it's about that big around.
Right.
I could chainsaw them, but then this swarm of bees is going to come crashing down wherever it lands, right? And then you got a whole thing if you don't kill the queen in the process.
Yeah, I had some queen mating boxes, and one of them didn't make it, so I pulled the frames out of that, and and I shook the bees. All went into the box, and he kind of held to the inner cover. And then I had 2 or 3 other hives that one was definitely a laying worker, and I swapped some brood around and things like that from some other hives, give them some eggs to see whether they'll make it their own queen. Right. And I threw that bunch of bees for bee power into that one nuke to see what they're going to do. And then I had a nuke there where I try to keep, if it's a 5 frame deep on the bottom, I want another 5 frame. I don't want to mix the mediums with the deeps,
right,
for selling. And I had one there that was a deep and 2 mediums. And I'm like, okay, well, the top medium was definitely honey. And the next medium, I'm like, all right, it's got all this brood in there. And it was like, it would probably swarm if I don't do something about it. So I shook all the bees off. I was trying to find the queen, shook all the bees off of it. And I took and pulled that box out and put a deep brood box on top of that with drawn comb.
An adjustable flagpole with a bucket taped to it. I've got a, I don't know, it's probably a 26-foot extension or something like that pole. But I had I'm 6'2". I had my arm all the way up, so I guess that's about 8 foot or so, right, over my head, and the pole, and I still couldn't hit it without having to get on the ladder. I mean, it's.
Is that where you put the ladder in the back of the pickup truck?
Now, yeah, well, I can't, because of where that row of colonies is, I can't get my truck back in there. So I would have to somehow get my ladder up, trim branches off or something.
Hey, Ziggy.
And get up there. But I do have some swarm traps baited up and stuff like that. So we'll see. Maybe tomorrow when it's nicer, because it was nasty yesterday and it rained today. So maybe tomorrow when it's...
Yeah, we've had a storm every day the last 2 days. So anyway, I like to say, kind of trying to get rid of these here queenless hives, do something about them.
Right.
And it's like you don't want them to do drone cells, and then you mess up all your comb and that kind of thing. And then I took like that one hive where I was saying I put a deep on top and got rid of that medium. It had a lot of nice brood and stuff there, and I stuck it in that hive. It's a 10 frame production hive that's queenless, and I put a nuke in there, and they killed the queen or whatever. I said, well, let's see whether or not this will help them, keep them going.
These boxes that we got, remember the one with the the dog ears that we got last time. We got this from the same spot, but they're not dog eared. They're just regular old boxes this time.
When you say
So,
dog, what do you mean?
you know,
Dovetailed?
yeah, dovetailed. These are not dovetailed.
I thought those Vivors were dovetailed or something.
Yeah, the ones that we got last time from this place were dovetailed, and these are not. So,
Okay.
but what I did notice is they're not exactly smooth on the inside, like
That's
most
what
of
you
them are.
actually you want that.
And that's what Brad was saying yesterday. So lose.
Well, we've talked about that in our club and stuff. I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. They what it is you want it roughed up,
So they
and
propylize it.
then they'll propolyze that and basically put a propolis envelope on the inside of the hive, which will be they kind of giving them a sterilized envelope is what they science guys were saying.
Jeremy, sorry about that. Today was a sad day of beekeeping for me. I found my queen, went to take a pic, and watched her take off and land about 40 yards away. Never found her. Hey, I would not be surprised if she flies right back to her colony.
Yeah,
Would
I've
not
heard
be surprised.
somebody talked about that where they, like you say, they were opening up a queen, and she
I've
flew
done it.
off, and then leave that thing open, and then she'll come back.
And if let me see, my queen did that about a week ago, and she was back the next time I looked. Don't give up. That's what Shane said. Yeah, I think so too. I think that they'll fly right back in the front. So you're out looking, you watch her fly off, and you're looking, and you don't see her. She comes right back, right back to the front. So that's happened. But yeah. So I've just been chilling today. I mean,
Yeah.
I wanted to try.
Randy wouldn't have had trouble keeping queens. Not really what it was. They were virgin queens that I got, and I installed them, and most of them took and everything. There was a couple of them that didn't, and the only one I've had a problem with is this production hive that I think I marked the queen in the middle of the honey flow. They killed the queen or done something to her. Then I put a nuke in there with a queen, papered them in, and I put the queen and her brood and bees in the top end of that medium box, and it went queenless again. So it's not a laying worker situation. Laying worker, they'll kill her because they think they got a queen. So I don't know what's going on with this one hive.
Well, hey,
I got
talked.
four mated queens in nukes right now building up. And if anything, I'll shake the darn bees out of that box and put that new queen with her new bees in there and let her go through the winter.
I talked to Spanky the other day. He's
haven't seen him for a while.
Yeah, he's not doing too good health wise, so keep him in your prayers. And yeah, he's migraines real bad, so it's
what was and there's something that they can do for that?
I don't know. I mean,
there's some medicine out there, or maybe there's some other stuff in bee world. Maybe that's a possibility.
I know I'm sure there is. I know he's been going to the doctor and whatnot, so hopefully they get him straightened out and everything works good for him, and makes him feel better. But just keep him in your thoughts, and hopefully he's back. Yeah, he's having a few issues, but I think they'll get it straightened out. But yeah, man, other than I really need to go through these colonies. I need a weekend where it's not blazing hot and it's not raining. So today it didn't get in the 90s, but because the rain, it was just that thick, muggy, swampy feeling where if you just sit there, you're going to sweat,
Yeah.
When I opened those colonies up, I had shorts on, t-shirt, just, pretty much like I am now. And I was like, I'll just take these stings if I can today, because it was just too hot. And
Good night, Lisa. Hope you feel better.
yeah, I hope you feel better as well. So
Yeah, that's kind of the way it was today. I thought about while I was working and whatever, I was trying to get stuff done today. I was thinking, okay, I got these different queenless, most of them are nukes, a couple nukes that are queenless. And I'm like, okay, I can shake the bees. Then you get in there and they look, there's a lot of bees in there. And I'm like, I hate to waste bees like that. And so, like I said, I pulled some brood frames from Discipline and that one and stuck it in there. And then I got rid of one of the nukes that was queenless and shook those bees into another queenless hive that had a brood frame I put in. And then I did some reorganization of one of my nukes, and then took that brood and whatever and stuck it in that production hive. And I still have one deep nuke that's queenless, but I've looked at it and there's no, land worker yet type of thing. And I'm like, okay. Well, actually, I was just thinking here, I got to took that nuke and just stuck it on this other hive that's got a queen and
we'll merge together.
hordes of bees. And that just means I'm less, I've been thinking about cutting back on some of my beehives anyway. So
Speaking of myths and legends, it's the Canadian myth
there is
right here.
I'm the myth.
When I introduced Charlie, I said the man, the myth, the legend. He said myth and legend.
There we go.
How you doing today, Brad?
Buckwheat Bob and Popcorn Charlie. How you doing?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm just lasering boxes.
Yeah. Are you gonna laser all of them?
It would take me quite a while. I'm just thinking about doing a front on it. You saw.
Yeah. How long does that take to do one of those?
One of these with my laser? Lord have mercy, an hour?
A day?
Really?
An hour?
An hour, yeah, an hour.
Must be a week.
Well, that's 40 hours.
How long is it?
Mine's only a 10-watt diode laser, and some people like Matt from Matt and Sarah, they got these big CO2 lasers, but mine has paid for itself. Some of these lasers are, so I don't care if it takes me a year. It's not costing me anything but the electricity. Some of this stuff, I've been looking to get a bigger laser, but I'm not looking.
Is it bigger? I looked at that years ago, and it's about the strength of the laser.
Well, yeah. So to get one,
well, mine was where they would cut parts too.
Yeah, I can cut small stuff with this. The problem is that I can't cut like a bee box on mine, but it's not only the strength of the laser, it's the size of the table, right? That you can put put in there, the wood you can put in there. So, for the one that I would like to get to start out with is like $5,000. And then I say, oh, $5,000, that could be, 1,000 frames and 100 boxes and and some bottom boards. And it's like, then that laser goes to the side, right? So
priorities, man.
But I've also thought about getting the little tabletop CNC machine that I could cut boxes out with that, So, but it would still take a long time with the tabletop one. And it's probably not the time to, I paid $18 a box for these. So that's still $7 cheaper than I can go up to the Beekeeping supply store and buy them. So
you saved a lot of money.
Yeah.
And because he went and spent his gas to go get them, me paying over what the price was if I would have drove down there to get them is okay with me. I paid for his gas basically to go get him and come back, which is
Yeah,
fine.
but look at the time you would have had invested too.
Oh yeah. So
So, the aggravation of driving down there, all that.
well, starting next year, my daughter and son-in-law are supposed to be getting stationed down there, right in the town that this place is. That you can get these boxes for $12. So the first time I go down there, I'm gonna rent me one of them U-Haul trailers coming back with my truck, and pull me back a bunch of stuff. He bought some black foundations. They were cheap. They were black, and they were definitely not coated with great wax. And it didn't even really smell like fresh beeswax. So it's probably paraffin or something like that. So at the end of the day, I guess if you're rolling your wax on there, it doesn't matter too much. But it's
Yeah. I know a couple of guys bought a whole pallet load, thousands and thousands of sheets out of China, and they spent time waxing and everything. They didn't save a penny. And by my math, just a boatload of work. That's all.
Was that foundation you were saying, or?
Yeah, foundation. Yeah.
Hmm.
Did they just not draw it out even after they rolled it, or?
No, it worked just fine, but the money they spent on beeswax, the money you spend on beeswax and having to do all the work yourself,
right,
didn't save anything.
Well, that's like
foundation is so expensive now.
The beekeeper that I'm mentoring, he had bought some guy. He has a rental property, and whoever was renting had beehives there. Well, he up and walked, so he got the hives and the equipment, and we went through on Monday and had two hives. One had a strong hive, one was weak, and you know how they're building the comb off the face of the plastic foundation. And I says, well, look at that. I says, it's so shiny. I said, there ain't a bit of wax on that piece of plastic. That's why one of them was one of them Vivors or whatever it was, hives. I said, no wonder it's cheap. There's nothing there.
Russell Koopman asked Brad, any thoughts of overwintering your 4-framers as double fours?
Double fours. You mean 4x4? Is that what you mean? In order to do that, I'd have to take apart the boxes I just made. I'd have to take the bottoms off of them. I actually stapled the screens and screwed the feet right to the box, so I'd have to take that. I don't think it needs it. I don't think they need that much space, that much feed. As long as I can get the population up before winter and get them fed up and get it plugged right out with syrup, then
he's up in Minnesota.
Russ is Minnesota.
That'll be awful small, I would think.
I've done 3s. I wintered 3s. I wintered minis.
Bee barn.
Yeah. It's really surprising, when you get them so plugged out and down to such a temperature, and they don't fly and all that, how little they eat. They just live on nearly nothing, kind of all winter. That's the sweet spot of that temperature. That 4C is said to be the minimum that they will eat. And
Jeremy needs help out there in Texas to pull honey tomorrow.
Sorry.
Oh, I gotta make it. I gotta show you this, Charlie. Someone sent me today. Whoops, sorry. Mark over at Sourwoods. You remember this girl, Charlie? You remember her?
No, not that I know of.
Oh, you met her. That's the girl who was famous on TikTok that we kept talking to at Hive Life last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mark sent me one of her TikToks. So I was like, oh, okay. I've met her. So we were sitting in a restaurant eating dinner, and this guy comes over and says, "Hey, my girl's kind of a big thing on TikTok. When y'all walk out, could you just kind of make a big deal like you saw her over on TikTok, right?" And then she comes around the
Oh,
corner.
jeez.
Well, the rest of the hive life, every time I ran into her, it's like, "Hey, you're that famous girl from TikTok, aren't you?" You know. And then she says, "You're an asshole." I said, "Well, kind of." You know.
Well, yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
Yeah, so I'll be figuring out how to winter fours. My only kind of wonderment about it is they're all screen bottoms.
so what if
Yeah,
you
I don't know if that'll matter.
what
I
well
don't
they're
really
side
matter.
by side, they're up against each other, so really they'll share the heat on that
Yeah,
center wall.
they'll
So
be
that's
four wide. They'll be four wide.
They're going to be
I'll
in the
just set them
shed,
on
so
top of the
there's
other.
not going to be any breeze. You know,
Not much. There is a
I
little bit
got
of a
people
breeze.
here at 30 degrees and they leave the bottom board wide open. I don't.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it'll be a big deal. Heat rises and everything.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a breeze in there because I have some box fans on low just to stir the air so there's no layering of CO2, etc. But those nukes, will be right on top.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
they'll,
but here
you know,
with mine, they're all screen bottom, and I throw a Coroplast board in there, and it's not a tight seal, but there has always been a lot of talk about that. One guy he took a hole, put a hole. First he didn't have it was wide open, and then he put a hole in the middle, and then I'm like, why? I mean, you don't leave your front door wide open in the middle of winter time. You close it up.
you just reminded me of an adult joke there, Charlie. So if you're under the age of 18, earmuffs right now. So how is a walrus and Tupperware alike?
Walrus and Tupperware.
How are
Mm.
they're both looking for a tight seal?
Oh.
there you go.
There went
Um,
50% of the viewers right there.
yeah.
No
Uh,
monetization today.
yeah. Well, we open the entrance right up, Charlie. Like when I put them in the building, of course I'll have the entrance down to, I don't know, 3 inches or something, and
Yeah.
then in the fall, in October, when
Right.
there's robbing and a little windy and it's cold and stuff. So, but once they go in the building, then we take those out, and the entrance goes right up to, I forget what they are. I think they're 11 inches is what my entrances end up being. So, you're right. There's not really any issue with I don't think the screen bottom will be a problem.
Yeah, I don't think so. I was
Steve says he doesn't
I
close
was reading Honeybee Compound. I don't quite understand.
in New York.
Watch the bees go through the bridge comb one at a time while the other bees were grooming them as they went through the bridge. Don't know if they're a hygienic thing or not. Where's the bridge comb at? Was it up between the two frames, from top and bottom box? I don't know.
I don't know. I always just thought they made that bridge comb for ladders.
That's right. That's why they call it bridge comb. It's bridging the distance. In my case,
Steve says he doesn't close his screen bottom boards, and he's in New York State. So
Yeah, I know a guy that used to keep bees here. He used the Paradise Poly equipment, like those 6-frame nukes that I'm using.
right.
He did well. I guess he did run those because I got them from him. But they were, he ran standard 10-frame deeps, and he would. I think he wintered in doubles outdoors, but he wouldn't do anything to them. They just sat in those poly boxes,
yeah, I
screen
mean,
bottom board and all,
yeah, the ones behind me there,
outdoors.
yeah. Well, and then also, didn't he? I mean, it was always a good thing where if the snow came around, it was an insulator too, and all that.
Yeah, being covered in snow is absolutely the best thing. And
Oh yeah.
from what I've seen of everybody wintering, and just when they're covered in snow, they're golden.
Well, you don't have all that wind and all that stuff. That's the biggest thing is the wind. Not some, it's more colder than just the temperature itself. But
Right,
I put entrance.
I've tend to believe that a fluctuating temperature is far worse than any particular
Mm,
cold temperature that they might be. So you're right. Once you get that envelope, that igloo, if you want to call it, when they're covered with snow, there's no wind chill, and it's actually the ground temperature that moderates the temperature of
mhm.
the envelope that they're in that little igloo, because they'll melt that right out, and then there'll be an igloo over the hive, and the snow isn't actually touching the hive. Um, and then it's the ground that moderates the temperature, and the ground doesn't change temperature very fast at all. So I think it's
Uh,
that temperature stability that they get inside that is really one of the big key factors that is so good for the bees. That's what I
yeah,
believe
because
anyways.
Ian's put those videos out where the entrance, it's hollow underneath there, and there's a little bit of water for them to drink, and they're fine. They're good to go.
Well, hey, I see a post
Yeah.
on the Book of Faces over here that Hive Life is looking for vendors. They got vendor deals for
Huh.
2023. Isn't it last
Maybe I
year?
could go sell pallets or something
There won't be anybody there to
and get
buy
a
it,
good
but
deal.
because they're all going to go
I
to
figured
Nobby.
I figured they already filed Chapter 11 or 13, and that was the end of it.
Well, the funny thing is, it's saying Adams Apiary and Bee Supply, Amish Leatherworks, Anel, and Apame, and Apis Biologics is going to be there. But I thought Apis Biologics was going to the new one, so maybe they're somehow going to both. I don't know.
Maybe what's his name? Tennessee.
Maybe Johnny. I don't know.
Johnny's going to go there and do that one. 10 people will show up.
Don't know. It's interesting, and that was posted 6 minutes
So
ago.
So I started about the 6th of July trying to catch up on my supering, and I finished today.
Mm.
Can you believe that? I realized I was behind on my supering on the 6th of July, and I've been working since, and today I put the last of them on.
Only
Well,
23 days there, Brad.
all right. So how many
Yeah.
hives are you supering at this time? 100 or
It's probably about 100. Well,
I guess what I'm asking
the
is,
full,
okay, you're over supering, so you need 100 boxes.
yeah,
Pop, pop, pop. You're done.
yeah.
And I'm like,
The big
how
challenge
long does it
was
take?
that
A couple days
I
ought to
hadn't
be
done my
done.
shakedowns. Yeah, just adding supers isn't a big deal, but well, one, I ran out, so we had to build frames. We built hundreds and hundreds of frames in the last 2 weeks. And I hadn't done all of my shakedowns, so
That's where
they
you're
were all in
taking
doubles. Like,
the doubles and you're
got
shaking
to
all
put
the
this
bees
queen
down.
excluder in here. See,
Okay.
so you got to get this queen excluder in here. So there's brood up here. It's a double, and then I have to shake that down. I mean, unless I want to sit and find the queen, I need to get the queen down here. Put that queen excluder in, set that, and by that time this is kind of full of honey, and then I add a second honey
Then the
Yeah.
super
bees
to that.
hatch out,
So that's what takes the time.
That's what takes time. Yeah.
and the bees
Yeah,
hatch
just
out,
adding
and
the
then they
boxes. That's
backfill
easy.
it.
Well, it's like
Yeah,
last Sunday, I guess it was. Yeah, I baled hay. Then I put in April bar strips in, and I had to go through. They're all three mediums, and I really had to tear the hives down to see where I like to put the strips, kind of where the brood is at, and either the brood was either in the bottom box, in the middle box, or some of it was chimneyed all the way to the top. So you kind of, like you said, it took a couple hours or more to go through 30 some hives, tearing them down, putting the strips where they need to
yeah.
be, and then you get tired and you just keep pushing on and everything because you want
I
to
guess
get
it was
done.
only. I guess it was only Monday. This past Monday, I did this yard.
Mhm.
This 40 colonies in this out yard. Shook them down and put a second deep on them for honey.
Yeah.
So late, like really late, and I was late. I could have done it sooner, and I should have done it sooner. But the flow came on
You only
so
can get so much
fast and
done by
heavy.
yourself. You know. Hey,
Absolutely.
Nancy.
And when I realized about about the 6th of July when I realized, oh no, these are all full, and now I had to shake down all those 6 frame nukes, and
Yeah.
that's kind of a little bit more work because now you get 3 boxes and things are a little more complicated, and it was just so my stress level on Friday was way lower than it was on Thursday
Mm-hmm.
because I kind of had caught up. Went out today and released. I had put some virgins in cages uh, on what is it today? Saturday, Friday. I think Thursday or Friday. Thursday, I'd put some virgins in cages because the nukes had not been queenless very long. I was a little
Yeah.
nervous to just release them, so we went out today, and there was, I don't know, 7 or 8 of them
Nancy,
released.
wants to. So you overwinter in 2 deeps, and then you shake them down and equalize into one, and then put your honey supers
I
on them.
actually overwinter in 1 deep. My colonies are only 2 deeps from whenever they grow up in May and start to get strong. Then they go into 2 deeps, and they're 2 deeps until the honey flow starts. So that can be late June. Usually late June. Usually late June, I should be shaking them down back into singles. So we just let them grow up a little bit, get a little bit more brood going because they like to go vertical, and then we shake that down, and that brood sits in the honey super in 21 days. It's empty, and they backfill it with honey.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much honey flow I have left. I don't know how, because I put on a lot of foundation recently. All those boxes I put on this week, well, in the last 3 days has been foundation. So I don't know how well they're going to draw it. And get this, I captured a swarm. I don't remember what day it was. It wasn't long ago. I don't know that it was a week ago. And I checked, and they're in 2 deeps right now. And I checked the second deep, and it's almost completely drawn. And there's like 4 or 5 frames of honey in there,
Mm-hmm.
and it was all foundation. Those swarms, they really draw comb.
So Nancy calls that. Yeah, you could kind of consider that a swarm control method,
Um,
or is it just
I
your
don't
method?
know. Yeah, like I think because of the honey flow, wintering doubles would be really difficult because my building's not big enough for that. First of all, it's not necessary. It would cost me a lot more syrup, cost me a lot more mite treatments, um, all of those things. They're a lot harder to move around because they're a lot bigger. So that's really why we like kind of our standard is running singles, and we deviate from that in May, June, and let them grow up a little bit. But we still consider it singles with that slight deviation in that part of the season. I've never thought of it as so much as swarm control, um, because yeah, you know what? I guess that really could be thought as swarm control because just giving the queen more space to lay in May and June. So
Yeah.
yeah, you could call it that.
All right, I've been text. I gotta leave here. I'll be back a little bit later.
You gotta leave.
Okay, Charlie.
I'll be back.
Yeah, I'm
I'll watch
watching
this.
the Hive Life Conference YouTube
So
put out another.
Russ asks if if I'm short a comb because of nosema. That has not made this situation any better because I did cull a lot of comb and I'm still rendering that comb. So yeah, in a way you're right. It definitely has run me short. Um, but I think that cull is really paying off. Those colonies that I took, I was very ruthless and took all of the comb out of the colonies that didn't have the core brood nest in them, and so I replaced probably half the comb in those colonies, in I forget when I did that, probably late May, early June, and the new comb that I put in there, those queens laid that up fast and hard and completely. It's just beautiful. The slabs of brood that are coming out of those now, those new combs.
Let me see. The
So, Michael Buck, do you put your pollen frames on bottom box or leave in honey super? I don't discriminate. What's in the second stays in the second. So if there's pollen in it, it stays there. And you know, they got a couple of months before I'm going to harvest that, so they'll use it up. They'll use it up and fill it with honey. Yeah, yeah, those swarms, they're making honey. I've got 3 swarms in the apiary now that I hived, and they're all in double deeps. They're just huge swarms. You can't ever, well, you can, but you're never quite sure at the onset where those swarms came from. So I kind of wonder how those colonies are doing. Yeah, the honey sale. How'd the honey sale go, Bob? I was watching that
it
one.
didn't go very long because it started to rain. So I made $30. That's what I made.
You need a little canopy thing.
Yeah, it's
What's that? You made what?
$30. That's what I made out there today. But it's 30 more than I had, right?
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm not complaining.
That's right. That's right.
But the thing is, I need to be more. I need to be better about when I'm posting to the Facebook, because the community Facebook group that I post in, that I'm out there selling, by the time they actually approve the post, I was done selling already. It was like 3 hours after I actually posted it, right? So
Need a little more lead time.
yeah, might need to do it like last week if I was going to do it today or something. I don't know. But I did have people responding to the post. Hey, are you going to be out there tomorrow? So I'm like, yeah, come on by tomorrow. I'll get you some money. So it's
Oh yeah, yeah. I do that in the driveway. People come and buy honey out of the driveway. I'm not on the main highway though, so it's a little harder.
yeah, I'm off to the side. Let me see the I'm just watching this this updated video that was posted on Hive Life 22 hours ago. See, that's why I don't get the notifications over there on their channel about what's going on and everything. So if you're into drama, go watch it. If you want to see what one side's saying
I want to share a picture with you, Bob.
compared to the other.
I want to share a picture with you.
6 foot tall
So that
stack
was
of
just
beans.
out in the apiary today. Yeah. Now this one's on that stand, but still.
That's about as tall as the one that I've got in the trees.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the one beside it, this one. Can you see my pointer? Yeah,
Yes,
you can.
sir.
This one here. This is the first swarm that I caught. I had to super that today because they were filling this box.
Nice.
Isn't that crazy? They've been there hardly a week.
You're doing good though.
Cannot complain.
Is there a way to save pollen frames from my rob outs from wax moss besides keeping in freezers? You don't? Do you have a lot of rob outs where you're at? Do you get that? I mean, you don't. Once they come out, there's not really right. So,
oh yeah, yeah. When things start to end in August, it gets wild. But Larimore, yes, it will. Yeah, it gets wild, and we can get robbing, and the hornets and yellow jackets are bad. A lot of people have trouble with those. I don't think I've ever had a colony actually robbed out by honeybees or hornets and yellow jackets, but I have had a mini mating nuke or something like that robbed out. But they're tiny. I just
Right.
try to keep entrances small. All my little nukes in my 4-framers or something, I'll turn that little dial so that there's just one little bee space to get through, right? So that they have the best chance to guard that little opening. It's not a very big opening anyway. It's only, I think it's 3/4 7. No, it's 7/8 or something. Maybe it's an inch, but I close it right down.
Let's see.
I had a friend, a Facebook forum friend in California, and we kind of always heard about this technique, and I believe she tested it one day, and she said it worked great. She was in her apiary, and the bees started robbing pretty bad. And the technique is you go around every hive, you take all the lids off all the hives, you take every cover off, and expose everybody, and then everybody goes into defensive mode. And it calms right down. And she said it worked. So
Just
it's a ballsy move, right? If it doesn't work, you're in really big trouble.
But I guess
I thought that was really interesting.
just took everything off. Took all the lids
Yeah,
off of
just
every
rip all the
colony
covers off. Yep.
and
Yep.
let
So
them.
every colony was disadvantaged. Every colony went into defensive mode. Crazy, eh? You gotta have some guts.
It's a lot of work though. So what happens with the first ones?
Yeah,
that
you
get
try it,
taken off
DC, and let me know. What's that?
What happens to the first ones? Like when you got 100 colonies, you take the first 5 off, and then you got 95 trying to get to the 5, right?
Yeah, I think you got to be fast, right? You got to really give her.
Right, to get it going. Yeah, to get it going.
You got to get them all taken off within a minute.
Well, I'm surprised more people haven't popped on the stream tonight. Usually people are popping in and hopping on.
Yeah.
But the
just boring old me.
And boring old me. I did have a few people that did say they wanted me to go live tonight. We got 43 people watching right now.
Yeah, I saw your live that there was a few asking. I was just sitting here and not doing much, and I thought, I wonder if Bob's on. Sure enough, you were.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I've just been sitting here watching the laser go back and forth. Which how far?
Well, yeah, see, there's a number of people in chat saying, yeah, they've heard that technique works for robbing.
We're almost done with another one.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah,
just keep it going.
Entertaining for the first 90 minutes or so, eh?
Yeah, that's it. But it smells like burning wood the whole time in here, so it's fine. It doesn't make that much smoke that I can tell, but not yards that I don't check as often. Okay.
So the other day when I was making up those, it took my cell builder, my big queenless cell builder, really, really strong, and I split it up and put cells in it. I did the tasks in my apiary the wrong order. If I had noticed those colonies that had been depleted before I did that,
right,
then I would have taken some of the cell builder and dumped it in front of the hives that had been depleted because they were all queenless, right? They were all wanting a queen, so they would treat the queens nicely.
Nancy was asking me what I'm making.
So I wish I'd have done that.
I'm going to go solo for a second. My fronts of my bee boxes. So just
that's awesome.
Well, if it didn't take so
What, is
doggone
that
long.
pine?
No, yeah, it does smell kind of piney. But the last
Yellow
ones I
pine?
got were cypress. These ones are
Oh,
pine.
cypress. Okay.
So this, I don't know, it doesn't look like a bad box. Of course, they never look bad till you go to put them together, right? So who knows? What'll happen? But I'm going to try to get some of that marine grade finish to put on them, since I don't have a dipping tank, and roll with it, just make it work. That's the goal.
Well, yeah, if you put like there's a few boxes you see in my apiaries that have colorful artwork on them. Sometimes I'll get the kids at the daycare to do some artwork, and then I'll spray them with polyurethane.
Right.
It's a Minwax Helmsman is what it's called. It's supposed to be pretty high end.
I just put
it's
one.
expensive.
This is what I got on there right now. Just a spray clear gloss, but that's just mainly to seal it.
Similar. That's similar. It's probably not like that's a Minwax product, but it's the Helmsman is supposed to be there, but it is, boy, it's like you could coat a boat with that stuff. It's pretty amazing.
Actually, that one just finished, believe it or not. So give me a second. I'm swapping.
Get another one going. Get another one going.
Yep.
You're leaving me to run the show again.
I've only got 40 more hours of lasering.
Well, you got about 38 now because you've done 2.
Now, if I remember how I got them set up last time, there we go. That should work. Now, pull this one off.
Yeah, making syrup floats out of cedar. Yeah, I don't know. Cedar has cedar has a lot of oils and stuff, and the reason it lasts a long time is the oils are kind of antimicrobial, so it doesn't rot. So I don't know, man. Cedar.
What floats?
You could try. Let us know.
The other thing that I've heard works really well is those little clay beads that they use for hydroponics. That if you pour those into your whatever, my tote, let's say, and then pull my syrup in it, that they're going to float on top, and the bees can get in between the cracks.
Honestly, I use foam packing peanuts.
Foam? Oh, the peanuts.
Yeah, the foam packing peanuts.
Yeah,
that's what I use.
You just pour them in there and let them go.
Yeah, just dump just a layer on top of the syrup.
Oh my gosh!
I get
stays away forever and
mortality,
in the night.
Here we goes.
Frank, what's up, man?
How are you doing?
Not much.
You got your Janet Jackson headset on?
Yeah, got my ear thing. Keeps me from losing it.
Oh, I got you. What you been up to?
Trying to experiment with YouTube just because I got a lot of views recently, and I just said I need to try all experiments possible to see what it does, and kind of burned out.
What, with YouTube? No.
Yeah, all the comments that people make. I don't know how you could. How many comments do you get an hour? It's like, holy crud.
Well, it depends how stupid the people think what I'm doing is. The dumber they think what I'm doing it is, the more comments you get. If they think it's okay, they really don't say nothing, right? It's just a few people.
So it's a
pile in.
Edgemon thing.
Yeah, pretty much. But what the heck is that?
That is my gamer in the background.
He's nerd raging on somebody on Call of Duty.
Sounded like Peter Griffin.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I get a lot of views on like shorts, like my regular videos, I think shorts have their place. You get views, you might get a few subs, but as far as like growing your channel, when you finally start putting out regular videos, very few of those people are really interested in that type of content. They like the little short, oh, look at there's bees flying in and out of something, or there's bees, going to my feeder type of thing. Because it's only a minute. And I think like Dirt Rooster and those guys with their swarm removals and their cutouts, it's like a big reveal, right? They're taking the board down and you see this massive colony. And that's interesting to a lot of people. But even shorts of bees doing whatever, they like that. But when you start actually talking about the bees, very few of those people will actually watch a 10-minute video of you talking about bees or whatever. So, I mean,
it's almost like your TikTok crowd.
That's exactly what it is. Exactly. So,
yep.
Like people like Bruce and stuff that have a big TikTok following, and then they take those same shorts that they made on TikTok and share them over on YouTube. They're just doubling up that way, and it helps grow their channels. So that's good.
Yep.
Good for them.
Yeah, somebody was telling me the dumber the better for the shorts. It's what I've seen is more as a male audience, and they're around 14 to 25. So they're young whippersnappers that are doing nothing, I guess.
Let me see.
Attention span like this.
Yes.
Just
all right. So here's a question.
Click,
Let me
over
see.
and over and over and over and over.
See what it says.
Yeah.
Is there a difference?
In my opinion, it has more to do with viscosity, so temperature and viscosity.
Yeah. I mean, I've been lucky, knock on wood. When I go to harvest my honey, it's usually 17 and a half, 16 and a half, right in there. I really don't get, which is surprising with the humidity, right? Is as high as it is.
If I get the question, is the question about the air bubbles, the little tiny air bubbles in the honey? How long does it take that to clear? If that's the question, then to me it's about temperature and viscosity, meaning higher temperature, lower viscosity, right? So then the air bubbles will clear. Because I'll if I jar honey, then I'll want to warm that jar a bit, and that just brings that honey nice and clear after I warm it. And I think what's happening is any little particulate and air bubbles just kind of rise up.
Yeah, it doesn't have as hard a time to rise. And then I know when I jar it, if I ever jar it and it's not warm when I jar it, like it hadn't been in my bottling tank for very long, that it's so thick. And then you're putting that cap on it, which keeps a downward pressure on the honeys to some degree, right? So it kind of does limit the, you're not going to get that escaping air because it's just getting trapped up there in the top.
Well, no, because it's all contained in there, and the air will either be in the honey or over the honey, so it's going to be the same volume. The honey definitely has a higher specific gravity than the air, and almost everything else too. Honey is quite dense.
And another thing that
peroxide,
we found
that's not peroxide.
If you don't open the gate while you're spinning the honey out, and the honey gets too deep, and the bottom of the extractor is hitting it, you're actually whipping air right into it, right?
Yeah.
Do you ever dump it down the side? Does that help it? On the side of the jar rather than going right straight in the center?
I typically don't, because I've only got a little.
See, I don't really pack honey. I used to fill jars, but I don't really pack honey. I know if you whip it, that takes forever, like weeks for that to come out. But again, viscosity is key. So if you warm it, then it takes less time to come out of there. The peroxide is when the acidic honey hits moisture. I always liken it to a wound. If you have a wound and you want to use honey on it, as a a cleansing agent. When the honey hits the moisture on the wound, then there's a layer of peroxide created in that reaction, and that's part of what really cleanses a wound with honey. So I'm told.
But is it? I mean, do you find it a bad thing to be in your jar?
What, peroxide?
Yeah, the peroxide that's in there. It's natural, part of honey, isn't it?
Well, it is, but there's very little there. Because the peroxide is created when the honey comes in contact with moisture. So there's not very much moisture in honey. But when it does absorb some moisture, there's a reaction that creates peroxide. So I just got your joke about pouring down the side. You're thinking about pouring
Like-
beer.
No, yeah, well, that's what they do. I only know
Yeah.
that because I worked for air conditioning, and they were telling me about beer. They don't want the foam on the top. And I thought the foam
Yeah.
was like a cool thing. I never drank, so I don't know. He said,
The
no,
head.
the foam is bad. They don't want that because it's wasted material because they dump that off. And I said, oh, so that's why you're air conditioning the beer line all the way up to the valve because you don't want the frost because it warms. I'm like, wow, this is complicated. So that's why I'm fixing your air conditioning for your beer keg. Gotcha.
so you don't have a big head on your beer. Yeah, I think a little bit of head is what you want, but not too much.
Yeah. So that's when he was telling me how he showed me how he dumps it on the side, and so it goes in and lays bubbles, and I was like, oh, I had no idea.
So DC, isn't that honey curing as it reacts? You know what? Don't ask me all the science. I'm not a chemist, so this is just what I have taken from people I think should know, and people I think should know are science people, not just somebody on the Book of Faces or something like that.
So theoretically, if you shave off the peroxide, you remove the moisture, and you've actually reduced your
Don't
honey
be sorry.
moisture, theoretically.
It's hard to say. I don't know.
There,
I've never
but
worked.
right, there is peroxide in honey, but I understand because I remember. Oh, you're taxing me now. Was it Lewis was doing work studying the effect of peroxide on the development of hive beetle larvae? I think it was Lewis Bartlett. And you're going back. My memory's not the greatest on it, and he tried different levels of peroxide in the honey to see if it would inhibit hive beetle larva development, and I think it did. He did find a definite relationship there, but I'm not going to go further with that because I don't want to put words in Lewis's mouth. I don't want to say things that look up his research on that.
So you're going to get us all down a new tangent.
So yeah, well, I don't want to go on that
People
tangent
be pouring
because
bottles of peroxide into their hive, into their water.
yeah,
so,
don't pour peroxide into your honey. Just don't do that.
So they're putting it in the nectar, so it kills the hive beetles, right?
Hey, we're not allowed to
Yeah,
mix the
yeah.
OX it is, I guess, with different combinations. So maybe peroxides is legal. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's add OxyClean to our sugar syrup, so
Yep.
it's nice and clean for the bees. No,
But there's got to be something online where Lewis Bartlett did a presentation or something on that because I've heard him speak on it more than once. I believe it was Lewis who did it.
I'm still trying to figure out, is there a way to take yellow honey or yellow wax and turn it into white clear wax, or is there no way?
Bleach it in the sun.
That's the only way is bleaching it in the sun.
but what I
don't know.
noticed is
I know
with my
that word.
solar wax melter, it's white when it's out there, but then when it cools down, it tends to yellow up.
Well, it's white when it's hot. Yeah.
It's like when you're doing candle making or something like that, so you don't want the yellow.
Well, you can actually buy bleached beeswax pellets.
We have.
How
when
are they
we
doing
started beekeeping and making candles, we made some candles, and set them in the window, and they sat there a long time, but they ended up snow white.
Ooh.
And it wasn't a very big candle. It was inch and a half across and a couple inches tall. It was a small candle, but
Now,
it went
is it on
completely
its
snow white.
surface that it's white and it's yellow still in the center?
I don't believe so. I think it eventually all went white.
So the radiation went right
I
through.
don't know that I ever cut into it, but
Yeah. I'm just thinking of like if you're putting it out in the sun, how thick can I put it and still have the same effect? Yeah. Can I put a gallon jug and is it going to do the whole thing, or is it going to just have to get it like 1 inch thick?
yeah. And I think you're thinking the right thing. If you're going to put it in the sun, if you were to pour, uh, some wax that you'd rendered or something, and you poured it into one of these big tubs, and you get a slab that's a great big thing, but it's only maybe an inch or two thick, then I think that's probably what you want, so that you get a lot of solar radiation hitting that surface, and it probably would permeate through and do a better job than just a big brick of wax.
I know when I went to Haiti, they do that for their clothes. That's how they bleach them white on the rocks.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And you think that they have like washing machines, but they're doing the plunge in the lake or river or the mud, whatever that is, and then they put it on the rocks, and they come up whiter than we have in America.
Wow. My clothes bleach in the sun, but then usually they're wore out.
Don't have much beekeeping news, unfortunately, today. Now, if you leave floaties, wax, and propolis on top of your honey, does it help keep it sealed?
I doubt it, because it's not a contiguous layer. It's porous, and there's always
Wax
going
is
to be some
porous?
honey in there. Well, if it's not like he said, if you leave the floaties, like if you were to pour a wax layer, that's different than just leaving floaties, as he said.
Oh, okay.
Because you've always got honey in there too, and the honey is always going to absorb moisture, so it'll continuously pull moisture down through that porous wax, the granular wax that he's talking about. Yeah, if you were to pour a layer, because I remember as a kid, my mother used to can things that way. She'd can fruit with paraffin wax to seal it.
Yes. Yep.
So it'd be the same thing.
I've run it through micron, real fine micron screens, and it doesn't matter. You're still going to have little micro bits, which, to me is a selling,
That's
right? It's
absolutely.
Hey, this is natural.
That's real authentic raw honey. Absolutely.
So,
But how are you going to win the contest when you go to the convention there for a honey show?
That's why I can't win the contest, because it's yellow syrup after you've sucked that much stuff out of it.
Yeah, I don't even go into it. So it's wax is gold. Yeah, I melted my wax down. I've got enough to do some foundation or frames.
Right on. I was going to say earlier, we talked about having a lack of drawn comb and whatnot, and I'll admit, when I wax my frames, I wax them pretty heavy. For example, I'll get about 10 sheets of foundation out of a pound. So I'll put a fifth of a pound on each side of a sheet. It's quite a bit. However, and I know you can put a little too much, because if you put too much, they won't actually clean it out of the bottom of the cell, and you'll end up with white, because my foundation is black, and you'll end up with white in the bottom of your cells. And then you always think it's milk brewed, right? But it's not. But what I was going to say is if you don't have drawn comb and you wax your foundation liberally like that, it is the next best thing, because they'll even in a dearth, they'll pull that wax up into honeycomb, the honeycomb shape I'm talking. They'll pull that wax out in like a day on that foundation, even just with the wax you gave them. So it's not the same as drawn comb, but boy, it's the next best thing. They'll just pull that right up, and you'll get you'll get some good results right away.
I'm still amazed we don't have like the do-it-yourself, make your own comb drawn out.
Get a
Pour the
get a
wax in.
comb extruder.
Oh, I mean that would be like golden. Why hasn't anybody come up with that? I mean,
They do.
Yeah,
You got the
I've
silicone
always wondered
form.
that.
no, I mean they're all drawn out, so they're
Oh, they
ready to
do.
roll.
Yeah, drawn out.
You can buy it in. It's not
No, I
it's
don't.
synthetic comb, but
I want your machine, Bob. You got to make the machine.
better
I mean,
comb.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, not that stuff.
And when it gets hot, it just starts
Wax.
melting inside there.
Yeah,
But they do sell that stuff.
I've always wondered that. You know, honeybees are the only thing in the world to make that.
You know, I think it's not just wax. I think there's other stuff in there too, isn't it? I mean, those cell walls have like fibers too, don't they?
Oh, I
Well,
don't know.
once they have brood in them, they sure do. I don't think in honeycomb they do. It's just wax.
Oh, it is pure, you
But
think?
yeah, cocoons. The beeswax?
Yeah. When they're doing just for
Oh, yeah.
for the honey, it's
Yeah,
pure
I
wax
believe
then.
so. Because if you melt it, there's nothing in it.
Oh, okay. I
But
never.
if you melt brood comb, then there's the cocoons are left over.
Because
That's
I've
the
never
nasty
had just
part.
pure one or the other yet, so
Oh yeah,
I haven't been on
yeah.
experiment.
If you get a frame of honeycomb drawn and extract it and then just kind of melt it, I don't think you'll see anything in it. You'll just be comb, just be wax.
Yeah, I got a matter of fact. I have to scrape some slum gum out of my wax melter there outside too.
Yeah, DC's talking about some old frames and needs a solar melter. That solar melter I go over there almost every day, and I am tickled with how well that's working. It'll take up to four deep frames in it at a time, and I'm just melting off some comb honey frames that I didn't use this year. I freshed them up, and it's just amazing the amount of wax that I've gotten out of it so far, and how well
it's
it's
so
working.
much easier than boiling it. Like
Well, it's
heating.
way easy.
Yeah, you just drop it
Yeah,
in there.
absolutely.
You
It's
drop
just
it in there.
slow, right?
Right.
I can do 3 boxes of frames in my melter in 12 hours or less, and I can do 4 frames in that melter on a good warm day, and it'll take 24 hours.
Right.
So it's just slow, but it just sits there. It's not costing me
But if
anything.
you
It
took a
sits in my
bucket with you,
aviary.
you scraped off burr comb and all that stuff as you went and just dropped it in there, you would just continuously be melting your wax.
That's exactly why I bought it, so that I could just chuck my scrapings every day into it, and it would just sit there and melt the wax into a little puck, and that's exactly what it's doing.
Now, I heard that you can take that slum gum and now run it through your alcohol and give it a good flavor.
I don't know. I'm not that bold. I don't like disgusting stuff. So
it smells just about as bad as you could manage, like imagine it. I think I've heard people say cappings wax, like, so it has everything in it. There'd be a lot of honey in it. Everclear and cappings wax or something like that.
So it's not the slum then; it's the cappings. Okay.
I can't imagine slum making anything better.
Right.
It's so disgusting. Slum is really not. You can burn it in your wood stove.
the
I know a guy. He's got a wax render, big operation here, and he was touring me around a few years ago, and this was pretty amazing, And I said to him at the end of the tour, I said, you produce a lot of slum? Oh yeah, a lot of slum. And I said, what do you do with that stuff? He said, what do I do with it? I heat this place. That's
Wow.
exactly what I do with it. So yeah,
makes a
He
good
eats it.
campfire starter. Learn more so.
yeah.
Because it's got a little propolis in there with the wax and all the carcass shells and
Yeah.
You'll never
think
get
it would make
100%
good
of that
fire
wax out
starter.
of there, but I've left mine on
Oh
there
yeah,
long
they have
enough. It should, but it doesn't.
their tanks are as big as a small car, and they have multi-ton presses to press the wax out of the slum. There's always wax in it.
But does the foundation distort? Does your foundation melt or warp?
I've experimented with that this year, rendering so many of my frames, and I'm using, I believe, 71 to 72 degrees C. Generally does not warp my foundation, but what I'm doing is when I take it out of the melter, I pop the foundation out of the frame, and I do it quickly while it's warm. I'll pop it out, put it on a stack of, I could just stack the foundation and have
So
two
it's flat.
bricks on top, heavy bricks that flatten it while it cools. So I haven't used that foundation yet, so I can't say how it seems to be working really well. But also about 71 to 72 C will melt the wax off it, but it doesn't seem to warp the foundation.
Shoot, you're putting the whole frame in there. I didn't hear that. Holy cow!
I put 3 boxes of frames in my melter at one time. I put 30 some frames in there.
I mean, I ruined one box or one frame just trying it in a stove. I was a newbie, threw it in the front of the stove, and yeah, it was trashed.
Yeah, that's the trick because wax melts about the temperature that the foundation warps, right? And
Yeah.
the trick is I never even thought of it because I was always rendering my frames in my melter full of water. And then I happened to be over at Ian's one day, and Carrie was doing a bunch of the same thing, exactly the same melter that I have too. And I looked in the melter, and she wasn't using any water. She just put the frames in there. So it's
Right in the
like it's a
wax is
jacketed,
melting.
yeah, it's a jacketed melter with a lid. Yeah, she wasn't using any water. She just put the frames in there, and then it just gets hot and they melt off. So I started doing that. Boy, does
Whoa!
that ever work nice? That works
You're
really
scaring
nice.
me.
Don't be scared.
So it
But I
just
think the key with that, it might be hard to moderate the temperature if you're doing it that way.
Yeah, and the oven was
I
on
think
control. I guess you're watching the
Yeah,
threshold. I'm
that's
I'm
why,
looking to the window, and all of a sudden it's like trashed. Dang.
my
yeah.
my oven will not warm less than 180. That's like the lowest setting
Yeah.
of it is 180. So
Well, did you convert it? What's 70? Say 72. 72 is 161.6 F.
So no wonder you can't do it, Bob.
what?
161, he says. You said you can only do 120.
Yeah, 180 is the lowest.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
And you have to hold it at that temperature because you bet if you warm wax only to that temperature, it's not going to melt all at once. It's going to take a while. Only rubbed wax frames, but there's a noticeable difference when. Oh yeah, rubbing the.
dry wax on.
Is there a noticeable difference between rubbing it on or dipping and rolling? I believe there is. I've not done the dipping method, and if anybody doesn't know what that is, you take a big vessel of some kind and you fill it with water, and then you put a layer of beeswax, melted beeswax, so that you can dip the whole foundation into
Mr. Ed
that
does
and
that.
then pull it up. And as you pull it up, the beeswax kind of, but it's not very uniform. And to me, I don't like that method just because it's not very controllable. I roll it on. Bob Binney did a video on rolling the wax on. rubbing it on, I've tried that. It didn't really work very well for me. Rolling it on, I can get a lot more wax on it rolling it on, and I do find that getting that extra wax on it makes a huge difference when I put it in the hive. And I don't mind spending a lot of beeswax doing this because it doesn't cost me anything at all because I get all of that beeswax back the next year, right? Because
Right.
now the bees aren't making that wax, and so I can capitalize on that and harvest the honey that they're not using to make all that wax again.
I'm so small.
I haven't been waxing frames very long.
I do a little can and I dip it into the yard and dab it on with a paintbrush. That's how small operation I am.
Well, no, I mean that's not much different than what I do. You know, it's not small or big. I just I have an electric skillet and a 4-inch roller. I just stand there and I it's relaxing for me to do it. It's one of those things I enjoy, and I'll just stand in the honey house for 3 days waxing frames after I'm done extracting.
Because I'll pull a frame out and it'll be like
crazy.
drawn, a little here, a little there. That I shake the bees off, dab all around them, put it back in, and hope they fix it. Because I don't know.
So how are you melting that when you're doing it right on the spot like that?
I have a little soup can on a rock and a torch, and I just melt it, make smoke everywhere, and just dab it with my paintbrush, dab it on, and when I see it, I do it.
That's a good idea. Because when the bees, especially when the flow kind of starts to come to an end, the bees are going to strip that wax off of that foundation to build comb.
That's what they're doing,
and they'll never draw that foundation properly. You know, people say,
"Oh, because I'm getting like these hollow spots around the."
Exactly, those corners, the corners that get the lobe, and
I thought they'd finish that
because well, maybe, but not likely. You watch the color of the wax. If the wax isn't snow white, they've repurposed that from somewhere, and it's probably the surface of your foundation. And if you kind of scratch it with your fingernail, it's all brown. It's all recycled. If you scratch it with your fingernail, you scratch the foundation with your fingernail, you can tell if there's any wax on it or not. And there's no wax on that. So you need to wax it just like you've been doing for them to draw that again. People
and it's so hot out right now. It's really sticky, that wax. It's like almost like feel like propolis.
Yeah.
Only because I was painting
plastic foundation because they don't get it. And they'll put, if you put a wax foundation in a hive and the same thing happens, what they do is they'll just completely chew up the wax foundation. And then when they go to draw it again, then they draw drones in the corner, right?
Yeah, they draw it right down to the wax, the wires. That's all that's left.
Right. Yeah.
And I paid all that money for that.
You paid all the money for that, and now it's gone. Well, with the plastic foundation, you still paid money for it, but you can just a little bit of wax on there, and Bob's your uncle, so to speak.
Well, now you know
I haven't been waxing very long, but I discovered this, and I thought, wow, this has changed my life.
That's what they're doing right now, then.
Yeah, and that's why when I extract, I'll sort every frame out of the extractor. I'll have maybe 4 different piles of boxes out of my extractor because I use a radial. I pull every frame by itself.
And
so pull it.
That robbing technique you just told about today, I'm going to try that because I pulled one box. Actually, I was doing several hives. I got to this one frame, one box, and everybody came in. I was like, "What the frick's going on?" It's like everywhere. They're like filling this box up, and I'm like, "Oh man." So I ended up taking everything out of there and just left them this bare minimum, and took everything that had honey on it and put it in another hive that wasn't having problems because I figured they're going to steal it. I'm putting it over here where they can at least defend it.
Yeah,
Drive me crazy.
But I'm saying that when I extract, I can see every frame, so I'll sort them. And if there's a frame that has those little spots, even if it's a small spot or half a frame or whatever that didn't get drawn, goes over in that pile. And when I'm all done extracting and got some time, every frame comes out. I warm up my skillet, roll it on with my 4-inch roller, put it back in the boxes, put it in the shed. And then next year when I put that on, boom,
Do you strip it
drawn.
of everything and just have just the light coating, or do you try and
No.
keep it drawn as much as you can?
No, I'll leave it. I'll just kind of roll it over, and I'm not selective. I'll just kind of roll right over even drawn wax. I'll just put it on there. I'm not careful. I just roll it on. They take care of it.
Yeah, originally I thought if you kept rolling, you could actually build it up and make your own comb, but it don't work.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work. I did a video a couple of years ago on talking about that as I wax some of those frames. You might want to look at not to plug my own channel, but
Why not?
it is the case.
Yeah,
That's
gotta
what
go
I
back.
did. Yeah. Why? What did I call it? Why do bees chew up your foundation or something like that?
How many years back was it?
Oh, a couple anyway.
Okay. I just figuring how long I have to keep searching.
Give me a second, I'll find it.
Yeah, because that's the only thing with YouTube I've noticed too is when you get somebody who has too many videos, it's hard to find their stuff then.
Well, you can search for keywords. Search for
Brad, do you ever
keywords on
tried
anybody's
to
channel.
save foundation with pollen in it? Mike's on about this pollen frames. They need the pollen.
Yeah, I heard pollen is hard to get out when you have it like left over and they don't use it. I've noticed either the next year. So, what do? Just trash it once it's been through a winter? You just scrape it all off?
You take that frame and put it with one that don't have any pollen in it. Sometimes that works, but you can pressure wash it.
You've actually had them reuse it the next year?
Oh,
Bob, I put a link in a private chat there. Our bee association, we had a speaker last spring. She talked about pollen. I can't tell you exactly what her name was right now, but and I remember one of the things she talked about. Somebody asked that question in Q&A, and I was surprised with what she said. She said pollen kept over from one season to the next loses most of its nutritional value. And
Wow.
I was shocked with that because guess what we're doing? We're paying money for pollen patties with real pollen. Was it any good? I don't know.
Maybe they have to freeze it or something to keep it fresh for the next season.
Yeah, I think that was the question that, can I freeze pollen or something? But so I don't know. There's a question mark there now. I think they probably can still use it.
The only time I've taken any out is if my hive had some kind of bug issue, right? Then I would take it out and freeze it, and then I usually give it back when I make a split. That's like the frame. I'll take them out of the freezer, and that's what I give them to start up with over there. So
yeah,
I've never
had
with it.
Yeah, I've actually taken the frame and put a little pin in each one and scraped each hole, try and shake it out, put the frame back in there, and they won't even touch the frame.
Well, for me, it'd be cheaper to spend the $2 or $3 on a new foundation if I was going to do that. Just replace it and give them another.
Yep. Well, yeah,
wipe
just
it off,
render it off, and and if you're careful, again, if you can regulate temperature, you don't lose the foundation. And that's, I'll go on a tangent here. If people say, well, plastic frames versus wooden frames, plastic foundation, wooden, well, okay. Wax foundation versus plastic foundation. And you said it, that, the bees chewed up my foundation. I paid money for that foundation. Well, the bees aren't going to chew up your plastic foundation. They'll chew the wax off it, but you put more wax on and not a big deal. So, I mean, those are kind of some of the reasons that I prefer plastic foundation. Wooden frames versus plastic frames. You bust an ear off a plastic frame, guess what you got? Garbage. I busted an ear off of a wooden frame, Guess what I've got? A wooden frame that needs a new top bar. Off to the shop. Bang, bang, bang. Even if the frame is trash, I can, at the very least, salvage the foundation and probably the comb. I can put that in a new frame. Okay, so there's no garbage there. I should never lose plastic
I
foundation.
did that this year. I had a wooden frame. I'm going through my uncapper. It dropped down, and when it dropped, it separated. And the foundation with the honeycomb on it, I just took that out, and it was a mess. Don't get me wrong, it was a mess. But I was able to open
it's
that
a mess.
foundation and push it back into a brand new wooden frame and run it through, and it was good.
Yeah.
With the honey still on it.
Salvage.
Yep.
Holy cow!
Because that's when they fall apart, right?
Yep,
when they're fully loaded, then that's when they fall apart.
Oh wow!
And it happens. But
So, I don't know. That's
so
just
my thing was I switched to the plastic frames for the cost savings, right? However, when it was a cost savings when I was buying them for $1.45 a piece, now they're $3.20 a piece. So now the gap is closer, right, between the two products.
Yeah, I'm paying $3.11 for a wooden frame and a plastic foundation. That's not including. Oh, you got a friend here, I see. That's not including
Charles Barkley,
glue and staples to put them together. I think
chat.
there's about 8 cents worth of staples in my frame.
Now, do you ever hear of people filling up all the plastic foundation little holes and crevices, and so that the beetles don't hide and stuff?
I hear people complain about those, but I've never heard anybody fill them up.
Like maybe pour wax in them or
fill them with Bondo.
Bondo? Yeah, I was thinking wax because it's probably organic or something.
Bondo, organic Bondo.
Organic Bondo. That's like Hoover Hive's organic hydrocarbons.
Dude, I was thinking about making a hive out of fiberglass rosin. What the heck,
You know what? The crazy stuff bees will build a hive in. I'm sure they wouldn't care.
Really? It's not toxic, you don't think? Because I know it says not to breathe it. It kills you.
Yeah, I mean,
see bees building hives in gas tanks.
Yeah, I've seen them in gas tanks and old rubber
they
tires.
Don't seem to care.
In inside of cable TV poles and even garbage rotten secondhand frames.
So theoretically, then I could take my 2-inch foam, coat it with fiberglass rosin and a mat, and be done. And I'll have the hive that will never die.
I'll bet you.
That'd be a lot better than my. Good.
A lot of money for resin.
Yeah, but I've been doing aluminum and rivets and wood on the inside in order to keep the bees, because I'm having problems. The bees are making holes in my foam. I have one right now. They cut a hole right through the top, 2-inch foam, right through the top, and they're going right out the top. They're in the foam. You can hear them all making tunnels.
Are you talking polystyrene insulation panel?
Home Depot with the foil on each side.
Okay.
Whatever it is.
Interesting.
I've got a license
right through the foil.
I've got a license hive, and the bottom board, it comes with the plastic excluder, right? So you can change the size of it. They've literally chewed out underneath that the whole length of it, so they could have the whole thing to get in and out.
Chewing the plastic,
the styrofoam, the poly.
Oh, okay.
Plastic, so it's cut out and it's got a plastic excluder that you can open up for different lengths and stuff. And I had it all the way open, but they chewed out underneath it so they could come right out underneath the bottom of that thing.
I was convinced mixing it up with the Apame, I think it is. It's totally plastic and.
See the bee box, the Paradise bee box that I have, the styrofoam is a brand name. The polystyrene is too dense, like it's highly dense polystyrene, and they don't chew that stuff.
That's the coffee cup style. It's the little beads that have expanded.
Well, the
Not
The little
really.
round
You
balls
don't
of
really
white.
detect bees.
But the hive beetle, or not
Oh,
the wax moth that
is
shoots,
that
right?
what you're using? You're using
No,
the
mine
little
mine
bee
is
kind?
mine looks like almost that
It's
foam that you
extruded.
spray in the corners and it expands. Oh, that's what it looks like when you cut it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't see the little round circles. It's just like it looks like a
A
Brillo
flat face.
pad or something.
Well, actually, if you tried extruded polystyrene styrofoam, okay, styrofoam SM is a brand name. You can get different brands of it. But that product, I've used that product in a hive successfully, and they will chew it. However, by mistake, one time I discovered that I painted some with a quality uh, exterior latex paint, and I sprayed it. Rolling and brushing onto polystyrene doesn't work very well, but I sprayed it on. It made a nice cover, and I discovered that they didn't chew it
And
because
it's
it was
usually a
painted
white
with this
Inside and out.
latex.
Or you
Well,
just
just the surface that was exposed to the bees. Yeah, it wasn't a box made of it. It was an insulated cover that I had made, and I sprayed it with this latex paint, and they didn't chew it at all. But the ones that I didn't spray, they definitely chewed those.
Because what I
Styrofoam
have is
SM is blue.
I have mine is the other kind. It's like a yellowish foam insulation with a foil face, and I have it wrapped with aluminum vinyl like siding type stuff to keep the outside protected, and it's nailed to the wood box. Well, where my seams have opened up, they're going into that outer foam in between and right down.
Yeah, DC, you're right. Hymenoptera. I know that word. Related to ants. They're Hymenoptera.
Was it Sharon said she's heard pollen only keeps about 2 months in the freezer. I put pollen on mine, and they don't ever use it.
And I actually hear them chewing on the wood box. I have a lid, and you can hear them at night. You can hear chewing on that, trying to chew out my lid.
I hear that chewing sometimes in my hives, but they're just all wooden hives.
Yeah, and it's right at the top edge. You can see them like they're chewing,
Are
trying
they
to get
chewing
out.
it or are they propolising it?
No, they're chewing it. You hear it, almost like sounds like mice in your attic. It's like, oh man.
Yes, I've heard that. But again, I don't have polystyrene. It's all wooden hives. But I've heard
Yeah, that's
that.
what mine is. Wood.
It sounds like
the
all
wood ones I have.
this little clicking.
Yep.
This little clicking sound up in there, chewing.
Because I've been
like,
putting
what are
wood
you doing?
between the bees and the insulation because I'm tired of them chewing it.
Yeah.
Well, guys, it's
Sure,
11:30.
I hear the chewing too. I'd never heard anybody talk about the chewing before. I didn't want to mention it. I thought you'd maybe think I'm crazy.
Well, we know you're crazy. We didn't have to.
I'm crazy. I'm not stupid.
We didn't have to think that.
I touched that electric fence once.
That's it.
Now, I almost wonder if they're stealing something out of the wood because they don't feel like going outside and getting it.
No telling. Might be getting moisture out of the wood. Droplets.
It's at the top.
So.
See, I don't see a lot of chewing damage on my boxes necessarily. So, maybe it's chewing propolis. Maybe it's chewing out the dried propolis or something. I don't know.
Well, it's hot as all get out. That stuff's sticky as goo right now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. When our pine tree starts sapping here,
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, it's this
Beekeeping without gloves. That's what you're doing, right?
Smells good.
Let's see. All right. Well, guys, been on here for, I don't know, hour and 41 minutes tonight.
Hour and
Good
41.
job.
So I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream and continue to watch. Look, in just that time. Almost got
it's
another one done. Almost.
Oh,
So it's
So
working.
does that have to make
Half done.
multiple passes and so it doesn't overburn it?
No, I've got air assist on, so it blows a stream of air through the nozzle.
So it can just make one pass and be done, huh?
Yep, that's it. All these are one pass. I've got a whopping 3 done, so not bad.
Is that thick enough that you can actually maybe inlay paint if you wiped it? And,
Yeah, I mean,
37 to go.
Yeah, only 37 more to go. That's right. But yeah, it's deep enough my fingernail catching it.
so it's about the thickness of your
Oh,
fingernail or
interesting.
better?
Yeah, so it's actually in the box. It's not just marked.
Oh,
there.
wow.
So it's in burnt into it.
Huh. So how thick a lumber could that cut?
I have cut mine. My here is only like 3 mil. It's real thin.
Yeah. Okay.
There's some of them that can cut all the way through it, like a 3/4.
Well, sure.
So you
Not
could put like a layer of epoxy right through that, fill that, and then plane it, and then that would be like inlaid.
Yep. Or this thin polyurethane that I've sprayed in there. If I spray it really well in there, I can actually just use like an epoxy paint or a black acrylic paint in there, and then sand off what's flush on the wood. And
That's sweet.
Yeah.
So, of course, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, but you're not stuck with just black.
And just cover it, right?
Yeah, but you have all the colors available now. It's not just black.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can use whatever kind. I can go to Walmart and get any kind of acrylic paint and put it in there. And
Sweet.
so, just trying to. I do like my colorful boxes. I think they look. It stands out, draws people's attention to what's going on.
I completely agree. Agree. I'm not crazy about, I like the way dipped boxes weather and all that kind of stuff. I don't have to paint them ever, that kind of thing. But the colors, I'd love to have the colors.
And what I did last year, what I found works the best for coloring for me is I can stack up 5 deeps on a pallet, and I can, or on 2 2x2s, just so it's raised up, and I can roll primer on it, and with the heat here, it dries very quick, and then I just take spray paint, 2x Rust-Oleum or something like that, and can paint it, and it works well. So,
Bob, I didn't know that. I tried spray paint raw on the wood, and I was wondering how you did that because I put tons of it, and it kept soaking in.
This keeps going in and in.
Yeah,
especially on the ends of the dog ears there, right? So,
yeah, I had no idea, Bob. I tried to copy your thing. I was like, Bob does this. Shh. And I'm like, the whole can's gone, and it looks faded and soaked right in. I'm like,
yeah,
missed the primer step.
Yeah, you skipped too far ahead in the video. See, that's why you got to watch the whole video.
Right.
All right, guys. Well, I'm going to cut it off for
end.
tonight. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
Okay.
We appreciate you, and we'll
Very
see
good.
you next time.
Have a good night.
Good night.
good night.
All right.